Hello friends, welcome to another weekly boost. Today we are going to be delving into a little bit of a heavier topic, so here's a trigger warning. It's going to be talking about abuse, domestic abuse specifically. So if this is going to be a little bit difficult for you to get through, I encourage you to perhaps skip this video and move on to some of my other content that perhaps might be a little bit lighter for you. So I encourage you to maybe see some of my other stuff on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. We are going to discuss the acronym DARVO, D-A-R-V-O, when speaking up gets twisted. So I want to talk about why perhaps standing up for yourself in a relationship sometimes may feel awful, like you spoke your truth, but somehow you ended up feeling like you were the bad guy. Perhaps you can relate. You have that gut-wrenching spiral of, maybe I'm crazy, maybe I was too harsh, or maybe all of this is really my fault. That's not by accident. That's a manipulation tactic called DARVO. So let's unpack it. What is DARVO? Well, it stands for deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. It was coined by a doctor named Jennifer Freed who studied abuse dynamics. And here's how it works. First, the abuser will deny that they did anything wrong. Then they'll attack your credibility, calling you a liar, crazy, or too sensitive. Finally, they'll flip the script and make themselves out to be the victim while painting you as the offender. They'll pull a reverse Uno card. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about what they did anymore, but it's about how you're hurting them by even bringing this subject up. Yes, probably many of you are nodding your head and relating. So what DARVO feels like? If this has ever happened to you, you know the feeling. You start questioning your own reality. You feel guilty for having emotions. You wonder if you should have just stayed silent. Or perhaps people around you might even start siding with the abuser's version of events. This isolation, this self-doubt, that's DARVO's goal. To silence you, to protect their image, to make sure that you take the shame that belongs to them. Now, sometimes DARVO doesn't just stay one-on-one. It snowballs into a mob mentality. The abuser starts a smear campaign, gathering friends, family, whoever will listen, to back up their false narrative. Suddenly, it feels like the whole world is against you. But here's the thing. It's never about the truth. It's about controlling perception, about making sure their version drowns out yours. And that's one of the most damaging, isolating forms of abuse. Now, why am I speaking with so much conviction on this topic? Well, it's because I am a survivor of domestic abuse. I was in a very toxic marriage for 5 years and a courtship for 1 year. Yeah, and I know that sounds like an old school topic, but I mean, that's just what it is. We dated and were engaged within a year span, and yes, that seems very fast, and it's because it was. Because my abuser was a covert, malignant narcissist. Now, unfortunately, in my case, I did not have any experience with dating. I had not even held the hand of somebody else who was not related to me, or who was not a girlfriend. So this person saw me as a target immediately. And unfortunately, I did not have the experience or the tools to see this or to learn how to navigate this type of a relationship. Imagine learning how to drive for the first time and not knowing how to gauge the gas pedal. You don't know its power. You don't know how to control speed. That is where I was. And unfortunately, the person I was with knew that and took advantage of that. And very quickly, I was very easily influenced and very easily manipulated, even though my age would suggest otherwise. I was in my late 20s when I met this person. Now, if you'd like to know more about narcissists, there is a channel that I will link below of an expert who deals specifically with narcissistic personalities. That way, you can educate yourself as to how to pinpoint them and avoid them. Now, going back to DARVO, why you're not crazy, and I want you to hear me now. If you've experienced this like I have, it's not your fault. You are not crazy, you are not the liar, and you are not too much for having boundaries. DARVO is a psychological manipulation, and it's a defense mechanism to avoid accountability. Recognizing it is your first step to taking your power back. Now, as much as you want to, you don't have to engage in a public battle. You don't have to defend yourself to people who are just committed to misunderstanding you. Your truth stands on its own. Now, can you reclaim your voice? Yes, I have reclaimed mine. The most powerful thing you can do to reclaim it is with a calm, steady confidence. You don't have to shout to be heard. Truth doesn't need to be loud to be real. Every time you tell your story on your terms, you're undoing their false narrative, even if it's just quietly acknowledging it to yourself or sharing it in safe spaces like this one. So, if in your relationship you've ever walked away from an argument feeling like you've become the villain for standing up for yourself, please know you're not alone. You're not wrong. And you are not the offender, no matter what your abuser may tell you. You are a human being who deserves to be heard, to feel safe, and to be healed. Your abuser's denial doesn't erase your reality. You're allowed to speak your truth, even if it makes other people feel uncomfortable. Thank you for being here, for listening, for being willing to understand these patterns. And if this resonated, share it with someone who you feel might need to hear these words. You deserve peace, you deserve clarity, but most importantly, you deserve freedom, and you can achieve it. For those who are currently in a toxic relationship, in an abusive relationship, again, please know that you are not alone. I have been there. I empathize with your situation. For those who have gotten out, I applaud you. You are safe, and your life will start again. It may take time, but be open to receive help. Help is out there. There are many programs that may be free in your local area for those who have gone through domestic abusive relationships. I personally went through a really, really great one in my local community. So you just have to search. They're out there. They don't all cost hundreds of dollars per session. Ask your local physician, your local psychiatry unit, anywhere, or just search online and see what's available. And for those of you who are still in it, who are trying to get out, please do so safely. None of us who are watching right now want you to risk your life, because your life is sacred. I will admit, my life was at risk while I was in my own relationship. And unfortunately, no one knew that I was in an abusive relationship, because as many of us know, the dynamics of being in an abusive relationship can be very nuanced and they can be very tricky. And there's a part of us that cares for our abuser, and we don't want to disrespect them to anybody for fear of any consequences that we may receive later. So we try to keep up appearances and try to make it look like we have this really awesome and successful relationship. So we tend to put a lot of the blame on ourselves. If anything seems to be going wrong, we may even outwardly display it to other people that it's because of us. It's because there's something wrong with us. So when we do leave and our abuser gets upset, people will blame it on us, not because they know what happened behind closed doors, but because of the things that we've said makes it look like we're to blame. Will you be the villain in somebody else's story? Most likely, especially if your abuser is a narcissist. If you leave before they are done sapping you of all of your resources, they are not done with you. So they are going to practice the smear campaign. And again, tell people of a version of the truth. It's not even their version, just to control perception and to make sure that people stay away from hearing your version. In my case, none of the people who were so-called my friends even wanted to hear my side of the story. Not one person. Many years later, there was one person who decided that they wanted to apologize for recognizing that, of course, there are two sides to every story. In fact, there are three, in my opinion. There's the abuser side, the survivor side, and then the bird's eye view, which I call the God's view. I don't know that I'm necessarily ready to speak about my own personal experience with abuse just yet. I don't know that I ever will or that it's necessary. I have recorded many videos on it, hoping to maybe post them, but I am healed from that experience and I have turned the page of the chapter. Actually, I've thrown the book away because there's nobody in my life at that point in time that is in my life now. So say if I were to use editing software for my life, those 6 years of my life, if I were to fully clip them out and take the time before in my life now and clip it out, honestly, my timeline wouldn't be affected that much. Because essentially, nobody from that time in my life is here now. So the only difference is that I have experienced severe trauma. I have learned a lot of lessons from it, because that's the thing. Despite what you have gone through, you don't have to let it define you. However, you can learn from those experiences and help it make you be more of an empathetic person, help it make you a better person to understand individuals who have gone through a similar thing, so that hopefully you can be some source of help. And hopefully this video can help some individuals. So remember, DARVO, D for denial, A for attack, R and V for reverse victim, and O for offender. If you can recognize those 5 signs, that should be an alert to you that perhaps the person that you're with or the person that you're associating with may be somebody that you should start distancing yourself from gradually. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you the next week. Bye for now.